but I want to bring up for a moment, and please continue to eat. And if you can, have your, small chatter. But if you could turn your attention for a moment to Mr. Jim Beddows, TDP Solutions. I wanted him to come and talk about this phenomenal technology that his company has developed to help you accelerate your access to procurement market intelligence, meaning to help you accelerate your ability to win contracts based on market intelligence. So, this session is called Procurement Ready Mindfulness. So, Jim, if you would come up and take the stage and talk a little bit more about your technology and how you believe it's going to be able to help firms accelerate their access to contracts. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Keith, for inviting me to come and speak. The topic was about how AI can analyze and demystify the investments at hand. And I think maybe part of this, we should talk about just demystifying AI in general in terms of how it can help. And so there's a saying in the AI industry that, and the saying goes this way, that AI is not going to take your job, but somebody using AI will take your job. So I'm not talking here about using ChatGPT, large language models, or regenerative type of AI, because that approach is too general. It's not actionable. It's too much of a black box to be traceable and to provide trustworthiness. What I'm talking about is combining human and computer intelligence. And the reason that's important is because by combining computer and human intelligence, it offsets the biases of both. So we all have human implicit biases. What a computer can do is go across billions of data points with a push of a button. Objectively, humans can't do either one. What humans can do is they can look at new novel situations and assess what computers can't do. So by generating first computer data and then having humans always follow up on that data and make it traceable so humans know what they're working with. And with that approach, you can take disparate data streams and turn them into actionable information. So Angela talked about, and Senator Cravens talked about, follow the money. What I would suggest is you first have to follow the data in order to follow the money, unless you just won the Powerball. So what does it mean about disparate data streams? So maybe talking about TDP's origin story might provide some examples. So TDP Data Systems is a service to disabled veteran of a small business. We were started in 2016 in Silicon Valley. Japanese corporations came and said, we need help finding startups in Silicon Valley, which seemed pretty incredible, but they said, look, we're at the back of the VC bus. We get the VC leftovers. We're not in the VC club. So for any folks here that ever felt that way before, that you're at the back of the bus, you get the leftovers. For us, we looked and saw it was a data issue. And there are data asymmetries. Some people could see the data, other people couldn't. The data silos, subject matter experts were in their own data silo, blind to an adjacent data silo. And there are data inaccessibilities. So you put any item into a database, it gets tagged with just a couple keywords. Goes in the database, it's indexed. If you're not looking for those specific keywords, you're blind to that entry. So what we did was we ingested 2 million startups around the world Startups licensed 75% of the patents. We pulled in 40 million patents. Patents come from research. We pulled in 100 million research paper abstracts. So we basically have our finger on the pulse of global innovation. Not to do that, we had several innovations. One innovation was we developed technology to be able to ingest large amounts of data in real time. We just ingested 70,000 research paper abstracts from a UK university. It took less than 30 minutes. Another thing we did is instead of just pulling in keywords, we pull in complete descriptions of an item. Could be hundreds of words. And that's important because a company could say they do analytics, but in their description, they could talk about they do analytics for hospitals or analytics for construction sites. So this increases optionality for people looking for solutions. And everything I'm talking about today applies both to the demand side, so people looking to place contracts and place grants, and on the supply side, people looking to get grants and get contracts. So the next innovation we did was we pulled in all this data by these different data types, and we used machine learning to make sense of it with natural language processing. And what's important about that is language is evolving very quickly. So as startups and as researchers continue to tag either their startups or their research papers with new terminology, it's changing very quickly. And so what is a contract officer to do? How do they define quantum sensing? Or what does an AI data scientist do? So we can see how the language is changing, but also we can expand the number of keywords we're working with. So if you give me any set of keywords, it could go from homelessness, mental health to energy storage. We can use machine learning now to expand it to many more keywords. So Department of Energy gave us 40 keywords. Energy storage, we came back and grew to 200. So electrolyte polymer fuel cells, redox flow batteries. So all of a sudden it increases optionality. So then the next thing we did was, how do you make sense of all this data? We developed a library of over 100 algorithms, analytical algorithms. So now you can take any data set and you can mix and match algorithms, push a button, and it will generate a scorecard. It could be 100,000 items, it could be a million items, line items. We'll create a scorecard for each line item based on the algorithms you selected. Algorithms include things like build or spy. What's the probability an entity can execute its claim or survivability? What's the probability for novelty? That was created for NSF because we're looking for novel impact. What's the probability an entity can provide impact for an agency by mission? So we create algorithms all the time, but the point is you can apply these algorithms to these different data sets, and then you can produce scorecards that then a contracting agent officer can then follow up on, because you always have to pick up the phone and follow. But this is now enabling humans to be more human. We're not replacing humans with computers, we're enabling them to do more value-added work. We've also, so this was the process. The other thing we've done with this is one of our first clients was a world's largest air conditioning company, and they were looking for very complicated technologies that were crossed. So they were looking for computer vision, and they were looking for another technology, bundle fusion. They went to look for both of those technologies and cross them, so their repair people could go into a room and know exactly where the air conditioning was to save down servicing times. But you can't just type those keywords into Google or Google Scholar or PitchBook or Crunchbase. But with the processes I just described, you can now start sorting these different by these keywords and then overlap the keywords to find exactly what you're looking for. And we can do the same thing with crossing, for example, hub zones, with rural community, with cybersecurity. And all of a sudden you go from this large amount down to very specific, and we can do it by location. So we met Keith in 2021. We put a MOU in place with Federal Procurement Center. And we ingested, since we did that, we started with industry, but we developed a relationship. We ingested all the data from federal government. We ingested other RFPs, RFIs. We ingested 3,000 federal labs. We ingested the 31 million rows of import-export data from around the world. We ingested 4,000 cumulative economic development plans at the county level. So we ingested data at the county level, the federal government level, and also globally, running it through our system. So one of the things we saw with corporates is they'll do what's called a corporate reverse pitch. A corporate reverse pitch, they'll fly around the world, spend millions of dollars. We said you should automate that. So we automated the front end of that. And then we were talking to Jimmy Smith, OSDBU Navy, and he's like, I go see the same people, the same place every year. We can automate that front end. So this is one thing we do. The next thing we do is we've seen people do consortium building and teaming manually. It's very costly, it's time consuming, people drop out at the 13th hour. We can automate the front end of that. The next thing we did with this system was that, well, you scored all these vendors and you see the ones at the top rank, how can you improve the other ones? Well, we pulled in 2 million nonprofits into our system. We pulled in 350,000 funders and VCs. So these all can then be applied to these vendors to help them actually improve their scoring. The next thing we did was start modeling out for predictive analytics. So we had pulled in 90 years of census data, Bureau of Labor Statistics data. And one of our clients was a construction company that said we missed out on Nashville. We should have been in Nashville 10 years ago. So we modeled out by zip code which economies are accelerating or decelerating for new market entry. National Science Foundation came out last year with $1 billion call, create Silicon Valleys outside Silicon Valley. We modeled out what they were asking for. And then we were on calls with the Department of Agriculture with rural communities. And people on the other line said, we don't just want jobs, we want the ability, capacity to generate intergenerational wealth. We modeled that out by location, looking at variables like access to nutrition, childhood education, the ability to generate liquidity, the ability, what's the tax regime. Nashville was number one. But now you're getting to a policy discussion that HBCUs we've been working with a third of the HBCUs on proposals, on policy. This is policy discussion. The last thing I'll say is, with these predictive analytics, you can see what's coming down the pipe. And we've done this with DOD, and they're asking questions like, how do you respond to man-made and natural disasters? Well, we can put probabilities on that, but we can also create solutions in real time. And this is a point about the solution generation in real time, is that with basic research at emerging technologies with startups, no one has a complete solution. But you can combine them we combine them in an hour or less, and then it can go to proof of feasibility, be done in 2 weeks to 2 months, and then proof of concept. So the potential is to work with the Community Investment Act, love to talk to the bankers, love to talk about alternative financing, because we solve lots of problems, but we created a big problem, which is now how to accelerate financing to go in for these solutions to be generated in faster and real time. So that's what TDP does. We're thrilled to be here, thrilled to be part of the community, and thrilled to support you. The one last thing I'll say is, so PWI institutions, big corporations, they have a double-edged sword. They're flush with resources. So they have the luxury that they cannot, adopt this technology as fast. They can, and there's what's going on is human bias, status quo bias. People don't want to change. And these big corporations and the Stanfords don't need to change. It's a double-edged sword, though, because they got the resources, they don't have the pressure to change. Lots of folks in this room have a double-edged sword. You don't have the resources. You don't have a choice. But here's an opportunity here to be more data-driven, to empower, and actually, and that springs to mind what happened in Kenya, maybe 25 years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, but they had no landlines for telecom. They said, we're just going to skip it. We go right to mobile. So here's an opportunity for folks in the room to say, look, I want access, and access to data should be made available to all and help this group leapfrog. So that's what we do, and happy to engage. We've been supporting the community here for several years and look to have an impact with you. And that's an ongoing, we continue to ingest. It's like, because it's like whack-a-mole. It's like, oh, you got that data? Oh, there's more data. And it's like, then it's like, well, let's cross the data, and we can cross the data from NASA, from NOAA, from EPA. We can now heat map 5 different types of cancers that affect minority communities, and then work back to the impact, economic impact. So there are all these different connections that can move beyond beyond saying, well, this is a disadvantaged class because they don't have access to capital. There's all kinds of other ways that people can be disadvantaged that we can quantify.
Thank you. And I'm upset with Jimmy because he hasn't shared this at any of the OSDBU council meetings, but is Jimmy Smith and the Navy using this? His contracting officers using what you're providing?
So Jimmy Smith had us present February of 2022 to the OSDBU Council, which we did. And the guy that was there that was with us was Walter Cotton.
Okay.
And then what we did was we used our system. One, we used it with NIWC. So we used it in NIWC Pacific, and they said, well, we're looking for a solution for ballast tank inspections. And what we saw were people were giving half a solution. It's like, I got this, maybe it'll work. What we did with our solution was we could look and say, this is the best in drone technology. This is the best in energy storage technology. This is the best in sensor technology. And here's a combination of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what we do with the solution generation. And we also worked with NIWC Atlanta, where they wanted a solution for rapid staffing. And we already have been pulled in by Korn Ferry. So everyone's looking for resources, right? Everyone's fighting for and so Korn Ferry pulled us into FDA, and they couldn't find any more doctors and scientists. But because we pulled in 2 million, the startups, the 40 million patents, 100 million research, but we also pulled in 350,000 clinical trials and 40,000 medical device trials. And we wrote algorithms to assess doctors and scientists' proclivity to work for the federal government at the beginning or end of their career. We started popping out these. And then for NIWC Atlanta, we did this for rapid staffing with data scientists, and we wrote algorithms to assess the probability to pass a top secret SCI clearance. So these are things we do all the time.
So thank you for that. And why I missed it, I started first week of February 22. So you presented January 22. So that's why I missed it. So I'm not going to be mad at Jimmy, but thank you. So I think we can
let's follow
we
up,
need to talk. Yes, sir. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Thanks,
Hold-
Angela.
Hold
Thanks,
on one
Nancy.
second, one more question.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you for recognizing that. I had another question. I appreciate it. So my question was, how do we access it? Like business community, small business, hubs on it. How can we access the information to improve our business bottom line?
So we provide it through managed services. We work with Federal Procurement Center. And what we have been responding to is there have been requests from DARPA and Department of Education because they're looking to expand the number of STEM-enabled adults in the US for geopolitical purposes. And what we are working towards is to create specific dashboards by instances so third parties can come right into our platform and create their own data insights. So for example, a dashboard for an HBCU researcher, or a dashboard for a corporate person, or a dashboard for a startup or accelerator incubator. So that's on our roadmap. But so we've been responding to the federal government. That's what they're asking for. But right now we have it through managed services. We have partners to take it to market.
Okay, awesome. We'd love to talk more and see if we can be value added in that space as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Ms. Angela, can you take one more question or not? Okay.
And I'm from Mississippi, so my voice carries. How is PII protected, personal identifiable information protected in your system?
So a couple of things. One is we worked initially with corporates. And if they gave us their corporate data, it was protected, it was confidential. We had to build into our system administrative rights. And we built into our system not only, we developed a system for also project management, knowledge management, because we saw teams trying to do things and they're all kind of all over the map. So projects should be data driven. The hypothesis of a project should start from a data discussion. And so we built all those systems into our platform, including who can see what data, who's got rights. And the client can come into our platform and they can have it so we don't even see what they're putting into the platform. So it really, again, it's just depends on the engagement, on who can see the plan. And the other thing is, we're working off of data, and we love when we get asked different extensions of this, and we were asked if we could use this platform for political campaigns like Wes Moore for governor of Maryland. It's like, yeah, we can look at the data. We can actually get down to a zip code, and we can see the probability someone will be a voter or volunteer, or for door knockers. And again, here's the probability someone, Keith will be interested in this issue. Someone has to talk to Keith to confirm it, but you've got kind of a good idea about it. So we've been applying it and none of that involved personal. This is just pulling data already available.